This renovation, like all others presented on our channel, is overseen by the Austrian Building Protection Institute. Hello again. Today we will show you once more how we dry walls. In this case, the problem arose due to capillary moisture absorption. Naturally, we are using NZ technology here as always, which eliminates the causes and effects of this phenomenon. We are dealing with a basement in Scheidbuchen, Austria. The biggest challenge was the strong capillary moisture absorption. This led to a dramatic moisture penetration of the wall structure and the formation of salt efflorescence, but also to a weakening of the masonry joints. Thanks to the use of NZT technology, we were naturally able to stop this process, dry the walls, and subsequently restore them by means of a forced and accelerated petrification effect. Why is the problem of capillary water absorption so dangerous? It is a natural phenomenon of gravity that we cannot completely eliminate. However, we can counteract it. Water pushes from below against the walls. This is particularly true for walls that have no foundation ceiling. After their weathering over time, especially those containing volatile organic compounds, capillaries form. These in turn transport the water upwards and carry mineral salts with them. These salts lead to cracks and the falling off of the process. Those are all the fragments you see on damp walls. Wet walls tend, as you have surely seen yourself, to crumble. If the capillary action is not effectively stopped, even new plasters and paints do not last long on the wall and certainly do not look aesthetically pleasing. What can be done to effectively solve this problem? A superficial seal is not enough as it only covers the damp spots like wallpaper but does not eliminate the ongoing water absorption process at all. In this case, one needs to intervene deeply into the wall and dry it from the inside to ensure the work is not in vain and to avoid dealing with moisture again shortly. We recommend sealing with mineral mortars. In individual steps, such a sealing process looks as follows. First, we conduct a diagnosis as the moisture content of the walls can vary at different points. For this, we use the corridor probe. During the measurement, we determine the salt content at various points of the wall to identify which areas are most saturated, as the water from the ground travels most intensely there. The same applies to ceilings and floors as they are also frequently exposed to moisture. In the next step, the old plaster destroyed by water and salt must be removed. After that, we move on to the actual phase of capillary breaking. In the first phase, we use the fluid mineral mortar NZT crystal. Thanks to its loose consistency, it penetrates quickly and deeply into the walls. It penetrates into microscopic pores and crystallizes the water contained within. Thanks to the special mineral mix in the mortar, NZT crystal permanently stops water movement in the wall. The mortar is suitable not only for concrete but also for brick and sandstone. In every building structure, it reaches the areas where water is present. There, it initiates a crystallization process with the water present in the capillaries. It forms insoluble mineral structures that permanently block the spread of moisture and thus the transport of destructive salts from the lower to the upper wall areas. This effect occurs throughout the volume of the wall and not just on the surface, so water is no longer a problem for many years. In the next step, the wall must be restored, as removing the damp spots requires the previous chipping off of the old mortar-soaked layers from the walls. In this phase, another mineral mortar called NZT CM is used. It has a thicker and more plastic consistency, making it suitable for restoring chipped wall parts. Joints, cracks and holes are sealed with it. This mortar also has drying properties. It works in synergy with the thin-flowing mortar NZT crystal. By applying both mortars to the wall area to be repaired, we can be absolutely sure that the penetration of the masonry is faster and more effective. After applying both mortars, the capillaries in the walls are completely sealed with water in a very short time. In order to eliminate the effects of capillary action, a seal for the foundation of the wall had to be created from the outset, which, in the case of the cellar shown in the film, was not present. First, we had to cut a groove into the concrete floor along the walls and then hammer under the wall to create a sort of channel for the mineral plasters. We did this around the entire perimeter of the renovated cellar walls, both in the floor and under the walls. Then we applied the NCT Crystal and NCT Zem mortars. This fully protected the walls from the penetration of groundwater and finally eliminated the capillary effect in the basement. The last step was the aesthetic refinement of the wall surfaces. Finally, we use a plaster called NCT Lime, which provides lasting protection for the dried walls against room conditions. Additionally, it forms a smooth and aesthetic coating on the surfaces. And what is very important, it not only improves the appearance of the walls, but above all prevents moisture from the basement from penetrating into the walls. On the other hand, the moisture from the walls can through the NCT Lime coating to the outside escape. The mortar is thus diffusion open and functions similarly to wind insulation known from timber construction or roof structures. The micropores in the wind insulation do not allow moisture to penetrate the wall but instead effectively direct it in the other direction, that is, out of the building into the environment. NCT glue is highly vapor permeable and has a natural lime-based composition, which also regulates the indoor climate in the basement. The air on walls where NCT glue has been used feels fresh because the mortar acts antibacterially. It is also impossible for salt efflorescence and mold to form on the surface of NCT glue. This applies for a period of at least 30 years. In a film, we showed how the capillary rise was stopped and the affected walls were dried. We removed the damp spots and secured them. We restored the missing areas in the walls. We sealed them with active mortars that convert water into crystals. All walls on which we used our mortars undergo a continuous petrification process, thereby improving their static properties. Simply put, they become increasingly resistant to pressure. After completing our work, the walls are much more stable than before we started. As you can see for yourself, the result of the repair looks aesthetically pleasing, and we guarantee its durability. To whom would we recommend this repair method? NCT mineral mortars are excellent for the renovation of old buildings, including historical ones, making them interesting for monument conservators. We also frequently use them in newer buildings, which unfortunately are also affected by capillary rise or horizontal penetration of groundwater through walls and ceilings. If our video has caught your interest, we invite you to contact our company.